Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the schwa sound. Now, the schwa sound is the unstressed sound that we use in English to help emphasize which particular syllables are going to be stressed and which ones are not going to be stressed. Now, for example, I'm going to start with the first description here of what a clear vowel is. Now, as we mentioned in previous videos, there is always going to be one syllable in a word that's going to sound very clear, very easy to hear. So, for example, in the word banana, say that word, banana. If you will notice, it's the second syllable that is going to have the clearer stressed sound because that is the stressed syllable. So that's going to sound very clear. So in this case, what we're going to be talking about in this video is how can we reduce the other sounds in that word. And again, that is where we use the schwa. So let's take a look at what the schwa is. So again, in the word banana, we notice that one syllable was stressed, but the other two vowels in banana are reduced. And they're reduced to a very short, unclear sound. So again, the name of that sound is called the schwa sound. Now, one of the first things you need to remember is the schwa has no spelling. So there is no one letter for the sound. But when we use the pronunciation symbol, it looks like this. So it looks like the upside down E that we have talked about in class. Now, one of the biggest problems of the schwa for English students is that all of the vowel sounds, the A, the E, the I, the O, and the U, all of those sounds can be reduced to that schwa sound. So, again, the sound of the schwa, let's try it. Uh, uh. As you can see, it is very short. It is probably the shortest sound in English. And you will also notice that it's the most common sound, the most common vowel sound we have. And in fact, in many words, we will have more than one schwa sound. So this will help us in thinking about, again, different ways that we reduce speech. Let's try this next little exercise. So we're going to say these words together. Now, as you see on the screen, they have the word on the left and a kind of pronunciation spelling of the word. So if you notice, for example, I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. So if you notice here, for example, see if I can turn off the pen there. Okay. So if you notice in the example here, that again, the longer sounds are going to be represented by this long stretched out symbol, and then the schwa is going to be represented by this upside down E. But as we look at each word, you will notice that the schwa can be represented by any letter. So again, that's part of the problem here, is that the schwa has no spelling. Well, let's try these words together. Okay, so practice with me. Number one, travel. Travel. Number two, pilot. Pilot. Number three, ticket. Ticket. Number four, pencil. Pencil. Number five, advice. Advice. Number six, Kansas. Kansas. Number seven, Alaska. Alaska. Number eight, Nebraska. Nebraska. Number 9, Canada. Canada. And finally, number 10, America, America. Now, let's look at a couple of the words. For example, in number 10, if you notice, we use the schwa in many, many different places. In fact, we use it in 3 different locations here. So again, part of the challenge for students is to recognize how the spelling of the word, so again, the spelling we see here, is actually represented in terms of its pronunciation. So now you can see why English spelling is so difficult, because when English changed over time, we started creating these longer, clearer sounds, but then we also reduced other sounds in order to make that one sound stronger. So again, when we think about the word America, so notice how we put more emphasis, America. So in a way, when we use the schwa, it helps to really kind of make a strong distinction between these two sounds. Let's look at another activity. In this next activity, first we're just going to listen to these words. Okay, so as you listen, first time, see if you can identify where is the schwa in these particular words. Now keep in mind, it's possible that you might have more than one, but just listen first. Okay, I'm going to read them fairly quickly. Number 1, reason, listen, excuse, allow, exchange, African, attend, arrange, record, American, Irish, pronounce, announce, Spanish. Okay, now this time let's say the words together, and as we say them, see if you can identify where you think the schwa is located. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay. So as we say the words together, for example, if you look at number 1, notice the schwa we can represent by this slash kind of symbol. So as we say them together, let's see if we can identify where the schwa is located. So let's demonstrate with the first example. Okay, so let's try number 1 again. Reason. Say it with me. Reason. So in this case, we notice it's here. Okay, let's try number 2. Listen. Say it with me. Listen. Okay, so the schwa is going to be here on this second syllable. Let's try number 3. Excuse. Excuse. Okay, well in this case it's actually going to be at the beginning. Excuse. Okay, let's try number 4. Allow. Allow. Okay, so we hear it here again in the first syllable. Number 5. Exchange. Exchange. So again, we hear it here at the beginning. Number 6. African. African. Now for this particular word, we definitely hear it in the last syllable there, but it is also possible that people can use the schwa here too. Some people may represent it though by the simple I sound. So again, the I sound generally is represented like this in pronunciation, in the International Pronunciation Alphabet, but you can say it 2 different ways. African, African, so using the I sound, or we could use the schwa. Listen to the difference. African, African, African. So notice when I use 2 schwas, they sound basically the same. All right, let's try number 7. attend, attend. Okay. All right, it's going to be here in the first syllable. All right, let's try number 8. Arrange, arrange. Okay, so again, on the first syllable. Number 9. Record, record. Okay, again on the first. Okay, number 10. American, American. Now once again, much like we had with number 6, we can hear it in a couple of different places, but you can also pronounce the word differently. So for example, American. We can use it in 3 different places in this word. Now once again, some people might pronounce the I in American, like African, but some people might also use the schwa. Listen to the difference. First, let's use the I sound. American, American. Now let's try it with the schwa. American, American. So again, many people might use the schwa here instead of the I sound. All right, let's continue. Number 11. Irish, Irish. Okay, here in the second syllable. Now once again, because the I sound is also a fairly short sound, some people might say Irish, I, like an African or American. Or some people might use the schwa, Irish, rush, Irish. Okay, let's continue. Number 12. Pronounce, pronounce. Okay, here in the first. Number 13. Announce, announce. So they're on the first. And then finally, for number 14, say it again. Spanish, Spanish. So here, once again, over the I sound. Once again, some people might say Spanish, I, with the I sound. Or some people might use the schwa, Spanish. So, as you can see in English, we use the schwa for every possible spelling of vowel, and often we can use more than one. So one of the biggest difficulties for students is to recognize that we often have one stressed sound, but then the other sounds in the word might often be the schwa sound. As we discussed in our online chat, when English changed over time, many of the vowel sounds that were introduced were new to the English language. And because of these changes, it also changed how we pronounced older words in English as well. So if you think about it, in this little demonstration, this little visual demonstration here provided from the book Clear Speech, we often think of English having actually 3 different lengths of vowel sounds. So for example, we have the stressed vowels. Remember, these are the vowels that are going to be very easy to hear. So if you look at this visual demonstration, it's going to be kind of like this, very tall, very long in terms of its length. Now, in many of the words that came to English from languages such as Latin or French, we also have what are called unstressed vowels, but sounds that are still somewhat clear to hear. So in this case, sometimes you will hear an easier to hear word with words that have 3 syllables or more. But the most consistent sound that we see in English for the reduced, unstressed sounds are going to be that schwa sound. So if you notice in terms of a picture, notice this person now is very small and very short. So if you think about it, the stressed sounds are going to be very easy to hear. The unstressed sounds will be easier, but the schwas are going to be on parts of words that are very hard to hear. Now, as we discussed in last week's video, the schwa is used not only for just syllables, but also for words, especially the short common words that we use in English. In the last part of this video, we're going to talk about one particular word that really does change depending on how we pronounce it. In this final part of the video, let's talk about a word that can change sound depending on how we use it. So for example, the words can and then the negative form can't will obviously change because one is positive and one is negative, but you will notice that the sound will also change when we're using the particular idea in context. So let's take a look at the instructions. Because it is important to make a contrast between can and can't, in sentences, can't is usually said with a clear vowel sound. So that's that ah sound that you hear. Say that again. Can't. Can't. Okay. Now don't forget, I've written over here on the right side of the screen, we stress the word can't, but notice we don't often pronounce the T. So again, that is one difference between North American English and British English. So in this case, we often stop on the T. But what happens is the N sound becomes stronger to hear. Listen again. Can't. Can't. Now, if I pronounce the word without the T, if I pronounced it like this, without context, then you can hear how the two words sound almost the same, but there is a slight difference. Listen again. Can, can't, can, can't. If you notice, the sound of your voice changes a little bit at the end of can't, and the T helps to kind of make the N sound go a little bit longer. But it is a very small difference, and that's why students often have trouble with can and can't. Now, when we use the word can in context, so remember what I mentioned, then we change the pronunciation. We often reduce the sound to that schwa. So instead of saying can, we say it like this. Can. Can. So let's listen to the following sentences. Now notice the difference between the vowels in the word can, so we're going to pronounce it in context, and can't. Look at my two examples here. We can't do it. You say it. We can't do it. Okay, look at the next one. We can do it. We can do it. Now, if you noticed, one big difference between these two, and again, it's very hard to hear, is that in the first example, the word can't is going to be stressed, because in English, the negative words are often going to be more important. Remember, we mentioned in our previous video that important words, words that have content meaning, are going to be stressed. Now, in my second example, listen to my second example again. We can do it. We can do it. So in this case, notice we don't emphasize the word can, but we do emphasize the word do. So in this case, let's try that again. In this case, we will go up on the word do, because now the word do is more important. We don't really need to know if we can do it with the word can. We need to know if do is something that we can focus on. So listen once again. Listen to the difference. We can't do it. We can do it. We can't do it. We can do it. Okay, so let's look at the next example. They said they can't be there. You try it. They said they can't be there. They said they can be there. They said they can be there. Try just these two. They can't. They can. They can't. They can. So again, notice our voice is going to go down on the word can because in context we're going to pronounce it with a schwa sound. Let's try one more. You can't have mine. You can have mine. Or you can have mine. You can't have mine. You can have mine. Or you can have mine. So once again, notice we do not stress the word can. We use the schwa and reduce the word. So instead, we stress the most important word after the word can. Now, in many cases, that would be the next word. But in my last example, you noticed it depends on the sentence I'm trying to say. Am I trying to emphasize that you can have this, or you can have mine, my particular one? But in this case, you would not emphasize the word can. Now, in your listening activity, which is another activity that I've posted, you're going to hear me say one of the two sentences here, and then you have to choose which one would be the correct response. But what I would like to do in the final part of this video is to look at the choices that you have that you will be listening to in that listening exercise. That's one of the problems that students have, is they often don't know what the differences are going to be. What are my choices? So, for example, let's try these, and we're going to try both examples. Now again, in your listening exercise, the test that you're going to be taking, you have to choose which one is the correct response. Well, let's use number one as my example. So for example, if I say, I can go, you would choose the response, oh, good. But if I said, I can't go, then you would say, that's too bad. So that's how the listening exercise is going to work. But in this short little last part of our demonstration, let's try both examples to make sure we understand how they sound. Okay, so let's start with number two now. She can do it. She can't do it. You try it. She can do it. She can't do it. Number three. Where can we go? Where can we go? Where can't we go? Where can't we go? Number four. We can leave now. We can leave now. We can't leave now. We can't leave now. Number five. Can you lift this? Can you lift this? Can't you lift this? Can't you lift this? Okay, and the last sentences you will hear. Why can you do that? Or, why can you do that? Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? And the last one, what can we do? Or, what can we do? What can't we do? What can't we do? Now, in the listening exercise, you have to choose the appropriate response. Now, we're not going to do all of them in this video, But let's demonstrate with just a couple of examples and then look over on the right side to see which one would be the appropriate response. Let's try number 1 again. So for example, if I said, I can't go, I can't go, would you say, oh good, or that's too bad? Now it's true it depends on the person, but in this case you would respond with, oh that's too bad. Let's try one more. Number 2. She can do it. She can do it. Which one would you choose? That's wonderful, or she should try harder? Listen one more time. She can do it. In this case, the first one. That's wonderful. So in your listening exercise, you will practice this particular activity, but you will have to choose which particular answer would be the appropriate response. Thanks for watching this video.